Hey guys, welcome back to the Swish What a Lad podcast. Yes, What a Lad is proudly sponsored by Swish, which is a super cool platform which lets you, the fans, connect with some of your favourite sports stars. As a young Hurricane fan growing up, I had an obsession with Christian Cullen, and a video shout out from the GOAT would have been the greatest present ever. Unfortunately, back then I did have to settle for a poster, but thanks to Swish, the old posters can now be turned into a video message that will last a lifetime. To order, head over to heyswish.com and you can get 10% off by using the code WHATALAD. But the very best bit of it all is that at least 20% off every video goes to Kiwi Kids charities. Such a good cause, and it's definitely worth getting behind. And also, Pure Sport CBD have been helping What a Lad listeners with any muscle or joint pain for well over a year now. It is the most tested and trusted CBD oil on the planet, with pro athletes all around the world using it. It is the ideal natural alternative for any athlete who is smashing back more than one anti-inflammatory a week. And of course, it does have zero THC in it. If you want to give it a try, you can use the code WHATALAD20 and get an extra 20% off your order. And I'll leave a link in the description so you can just click on that. And lastly, everyone's favourite lad, Tim Bateman, has been offering an awesome opportunity for anyone who's interested in their wellness. O Studio is New Zealand's largest wellness and recovery space, and there is now an exciting opportunity for you to own your very own. Anyone who knows Tim Bateman will know that he's one of the most switched on guys you'll ever meet, so having him guide you through this whole process of setting up your own business is priceless within itself. Add to the fact that the wellness space is the second fastest growing industry in the world. This is an awesome opportunity for anyone who likes to run their own ship or is excited for something new. If you are interested, click on the link in the description to get in touch. And as always, I'm super grateful for all our sponsors who are helping bring this podcast to you. But we will get to the main act because this one is a good one. What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad. What a lad, what a lad, what a lad, what an absolute lad. Oh, what a lad. Well, today I have a legend of the game on the podcast who has had some career. He's almost done it all. He's played for North Harbour, the Blues, Otago and the Highlanders. He's also represented his country in both the 7-man game and for, of course, the All Blacks. He also spent some time over the UK where he became a Leicester legend. And going off what every single person I've spoken to has said, he is one of the greatest lads going round. It is the great Craig Newby. Welcome, mate.
Oh, mate, what an introduction. And apart from the technical difficulties, I'm not a lad in the computer world, mate. We've struggled here for the last 10 minutes, but great to be on, eh? Great to be on.
Mate, stoked to get through that little technical difficulty and get you on. I love hearing stories about the golden era of professional rugby, and no doubt you have plenty.
Yeah, well, I was having a bit of a think because a couple of the boys at the club here over in Belfast, they listen to the podcast as well. We've got a couple of Kiwi guys, or one Kiwi, one Aussie, and so yeah, I was sort of thinking of some stories the other day, but I guess until you start getting into them, it's hard to remember them all, and half the time you're pissed anyway and you don't remember them anyway.
Yeah, that's so true. But one thing a lot of people did want to know going from the questions was what you're up to now. Like, it's been a while since you've been out of the game, so what have you been up to post-rugby?
Yeah, it's been nearly 10 years since I retired. Bad knees, so knees blew out on me and just had to give up. And so I've been over in the UK after that. And the last sort of 9-12 months I've been over in Belfast coaching at Ulster. So somehow landed at the skills coach, working with Jared Payne, who's the defence coach. Everyone will know JP, and a guy called Dan Soper, who's Charlie Hall's best mate from down in Alexandra. So real good crew of coaches here. So that's my last 12 months is just trying to learn how to coach and try not to make mistakes and trying to add value.
Yeah. What have you found the biggest difference from coaching to playing?
Oh, probably the way you talk to people, and the way you treat everyone. Like, as a player, you just sort of ripped in and led from the front, and if something needed to be said, you'd say it. But as a coach, you've got to be a little bit more tactful and think about how that might come across and how it wants to come across to the players. So I found that probably in the last 12 months really, really challenging and something I've really enjoyed. Initially, it was having an idea that I knew that could be done, but players couldn't do it or couldn't coach it across to them. So I found that initially, but yeah, that's been a struggle. But I mean, I love it. I love the coaching. I love being on the sideline. I do the water and run the tee on or hobble the tee on, and I just love being part of the footy. And we were in Toulouse on the weekend, and absolute 30,000 people in their stadium just going mad, mainly at the referee because I thought he was brilliant, but they didn't think he was. And I just love being part of footy, and just sitting down at the end of it, win, lose, draw, and have a beer and share the stories, and that's why I'm still in it. But yeah, doing it over here in Belfast. I live on my own here. I've got a little nice place in East Belfast, and yeah, enjoying that.
Do you miss playing? Sounds like it.
Oh, there's days I miss the atmosphere of playing, like the big games. Like I wish I was there to enjoy that, but I don't miss waking up. Well, I do still wake up sore back and sore knees and my neck, but no, I don't miss it. Although last year a couple of years ago, I was home during COVID times. My mum was a bit crook, so I came home to help out the old man, basically cook him dinners because he's pretty hopeless, and came home to support mum and dad. And I ended up, my brother-in-law plays for Kahukura, he coaches them, and he said, we're going to have to watch the Chiefs Highlanders game. We're going to meet at the pub at 9 a.m, jump on the bus across to Hamilton, come for a few beers. Like, yeah, awesome. So sinking beers down in Rotorua in the pub, and get on the bus at 9:30, had 6 beers already and feeling good. And we get over there, and we've stopped off at Hamilton Old Boys maybe, or one of the clubs, and they're like, we just got a Golden Oldies game before the Highlanders Chiefs game, so do you want to play? I was like, nah, fuck that, I'm not playing, my knees are gone, I can't play. And they're like, we've got you some boots. I was like, no. Anyway, 4 more beers, and I've had a dozen beers here, and the guitar's out, and it's proper. So anyway, I'll go 16th man. Within the first minute, someone's injured. I end up playing the whole game, and mate, absolutely loved it. So up until that point, I hadn't missed rugby at all, but I just got skin full and just got the fever. It was Golden Oldies, over 40s, and there was this one bloke who was going Terry Turbos, and me and my brother-in-law Brad were like, let's get him. So we smashed this one guy, and I got sucked into it, and then ended up scoring a try, and it was so good. So good. And then I went to the Chiefs game, and it was beautiful, a nice afternoon. It was the game where the Chiefs were up by 1 million at half time, and everyone was giving me a load of shit, and then the Highlanders dragged it back. And I remember seeing Grant Fox, and did the classic, "Hey Foxy," and he turned around and just we all just blanked him, and he didn't know who it was, and he's looking at the crowd, and just one of those days. But that's the only game I've had in 12 or 10 years.
Scored a try, smashed someone, mate. You're on fire. Love it.
Mate, one bloke was about 70, and he came flying into this ruck and just caught my elbow. And he might have caught it right, whatever, but he come up with this massive cut. He must have needed 10 stitches, and he was pretty old, so old. He had the gold shorts on and that, and but he just loved it. He ran off, taped himself back up with some insulation tape through a cut, and just loved it, and just straight back into it. But I guess that's none of them. Not that I'm pretty modest, but none of them knew I was an ex-All Black or whoever I was. It was just some blokes just having beers, and at every water break, the sheep drench gun would come out, and you'd have shot support, and at the aftermatch function, it was pretty nice. We had a big, massive feed, and I don't know what happened, but one of the guys, their captain, must have found out, and in the speech has just said, awesome, to have an All Black in here, and to play the game and have a few beers and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Just getting acknowledged for that.
So was it your knees that ended your career, and what was that? How bad was it?
Yeah, it was my knees in the end. I was still playing really good footy for Leicester. We'd lost the final to Harlequins that year, and tragically, I didn't play in the final. I had pretty bad knees, and I wasn't training a lot. And I played the semi-final against Saracens, and I got man of the match. And then the final got put on the bench. I was pretty bitter about it. So yeah, that was it really, and that was my last game. I kind of knew it was my last game, and it didn't even get put on, and I was pretty filthy, and I didn't see the final 2 minutes of the game. I just I just went into the change rooms and probably acted quite poorly in respect of, looking back, I probably should have dealt with that better, but I knew it was my last game. In my heart, I knew I had off-season clean-outs planned or booked in, but I just knew it was my last game. And I remember going to the change room, and Julian White, lots of got him prop. He he didn't get on either, and we just sat and then we had a beer, and then fucking Murphy's Law, the drug testers come over and like number 19 and number 20 or whatever, and you're drug testing. I told this guy to fuck off, and he said, "Oh, are you denying a test?" And I said, "I'm not denying a test, mate. I've just fucking, one, lost the final, two, not got on. I'm sitting here having a beer with my mate, just like," and he's like, "Well, if you're going to refuse, I'll put you down as a refusal, and that's going to go as a 2-year ban." And anyway, I took like 2 hours to take a piss, and just to spite him, really. So that was it, yeah. So just cartilage, really. I had a few tidy ups over my time, and eventually they ran out of options. And yeah, I'm in for a double knee replacement. I've actually got a surgery appointment tomorrow with a surgeon, and then hopefully getting them done this year, which would be good. Get a new pair of wheels.
How good. You'll be back out there in no time. But man, that's so disappointing to hear what fairy tale finish. Like, a lot of guys always sort of dream about the perfect way to end their career, but obviously your one was not quite like that.
Nah, but I don't have any regrets. And I remember Richard Cockerell was the coach, and he eventually got moved on from Leicester, and I rang him just to say thanks for his time, and hard luck how they'd done it. Like, the club didn't really go about it that well, and he just said, "No, thanks for your, all your effort, and the games you played for me were, like, you always gave your best," and that was quite a nice compliment. And then he just apologised for not putting me on in the final. He said, like, one of my regrets. So yeah, it's one of those things, and someone's got to win and someone's got to lose, and on that day it was Harlequin's day.
And a lot of people talk about how hard those first couple of years are post-retirement. How did you find that?
I don't know, really. You can sit around and feel sorry for yourself, or mope, or I don't know, find excuses, but not to get out of bed, or to, I don't know, I was on all this money and now I'm not, and whatever. But I was pretty lucky. I had pretty good investment sense. My parents were really good at advising me with my money, so I had a little bit of money tucked away, and I invested in some property and done okay there. So financially I was okay, so I was lucky. I know some guys aren't in that same boat, but yeah. I just made a plan. I wanted to be a coach, and I said, right, what do I need to do? And so I was coaching at schools, and I ended up getting a National 1 gig with Cambridge, and doing after dinner speaking, and just working my ass off for an opportunity, and eventually got to Japan. Had a year at the Green Rockets, and then came back, and so I didn't give myself time to dwell. I just made some goals, and like, how can I achieve those? That was it, really. I suppose didn't have time to sook about it.
That's it. And how did you find coaching the Green Rockets?
Oh, the Rockets, mate! I loved it for lots of reasons. After I decided. It took me 2 or 3 months to decide that I wasn't going to change some of the stuff they were trying to do on and off the field, and just embrace it. And I started finding ways that I could influence the players and the play, and I just got there. I had some good buggers there. A guy called Nick Ross, who's from Waikato, second row, and Neil Brew, old bruiser from back in the Highlanders days, was playing. And so we had a few, was Sam Norton-Knight, an Aussie guy, and Scott Higginbotham. So I just really went through those guys, and our captain spoke good English, so I kind of just cut the Japanese coaches out a wee bit and try to focus on what I could control. And I had some awesome nights out in Tokyo with some of the boys, and like we jump on the train and like just all you can drink and whatever, it's real cheap and that. And I remember like going in to meet Orlando Sakai and a few boys once, and I left my bag. I got that pissed. I left my bag in the taxi, and I was nowhere, like I didn't know where I was. And he ended up, somehow he got on my phone and he found the last taxi, and he rang the number, and he spoke fluent Japanese, and this guy, within half an hour, the guys dropped my bag back. And it was, I love the place, good food, good people. Footy was tough. We got into the relegation battle, and we ended up beating Docomo, I think, to get through, and we saved the club. But they're struggling a bit too now. Boris Stankovic, one of my good mates, is over there coaching there.
Oh, yeah.
And he loves it as well. They're struggling a bit.
Yeah, they're definitely struggling. They haven't won a game for about 2 or 3 years now, so maybe since you left.
Nah, they won 2 because the other team got COVID.
Yeah, that's right. And all the coaches were celebrating.
Yeah.
Claim it.
Yeah. Take it.
Oh, mate. Well, anyway, we can't get through a Waterlad episode without hearing the story from the start. So pretty keen to hear what life was like for you growing up. So give us the rundown.
Yeah, life was pretty good. I started footy for Kahukura, my local club, when I was 4, under fives. Started playing when I was 4, and we lived in the city then. And I think when I was about 8 or 9, moved out to the countryside. I remember just getting home from school, and Dad was like, "Oh, we're moving." "Oh, yeah, where we going?" "Oh, we're just jumping the truck," and we drove out and ended up on a farm just outside of Rotorua, and probably the best thing for me. Like, I was a kid who had loads of energy, and I wasn't that keen on school and got in trouble a bit, and so being out on the farm was really good. When I was about 12 or 13, me and a mate Ian were out shooting sparrows and pigeons and stuff with an air rifle, and he shot me in the leg, so I spent a few weeks in hospital and had to get an operation. A long story. He reckons it wasn't loaded. It was definitely loaded, and so that sort of shaped me a bit. I went from a number 8 to I came out of that and spent 6 months rehab, and then I came out as a fly half. So that shaped my kicking and passing ability. And went to Rotorua Boys. Used to catch the school bus. It would take me about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half to get into school, just to get to Rotorua Boys, because that was where rugby and cricket was.
Yeah.
Western Heights was my other option, but they didn't have cricket, and I was a real keen cricketer in those days, and I love my footy, but cricket was my main passion. So went to Rotorua Boys, drew the national final in 1997 or 8 or something like that with Richie McCaw's Otago boys, Richie McCaw and Filippo Levy and Jason Carwell, and it was me and Tom Donnelly were the Rotorua boys. Sort of got through the Landers. So we drew 5-5, no extra time, because we were playing at Jade Stadium, and Harbour, Canterbury were playing before us, after us in the TV times. It was shit, really. We drew that. Yeah. So that was it, really. Just a typical sort of Kiwi kid upbringing, beach in the summer and footy and cricket. Parents were awesome. Had an older sister who was, we didn't get on at all. Like, we hated each other until she left school, and we become good mates, so we're still good mates. I spoke to her just before. So that was it, really. And then I didn't play much rep stuff. I played a little bit of Bay secondary schools, but not really. I was a skinny flanker who just went hard and loved it. And I played Bay under 19s when I was still at school. My now brother-in-law, was playing for the Bay 19s, and I went along to watch, and a couple of guys didn't turn up, so I just jumped on and did it real good. And I remember going to play in Taupo against King Country, and we had a court session. I didn't know what a court session was, and I went real hard from the start and blew out. And I remember just being sick all through, like, my bed and that. That was the first real big footy piss up, and I just remember, I was like, I need to sort myself out. And then, I don't know if you remember, there was like the New Zealand Rugby Academy.
No, I don't remember that.
They had a 3-year deal down in Palmy, and you did like 4 or 5 camps every year, and I scraped my way into that because I sort of inadvertently sort of made the New Zealand Sevens, which is quite an interesting story. But I remember making the New Zealand Academy, and that was the first time I'd really ever had any performance training or never been to the gym. And we'd go down to Palmy for 3 or 4 days, and this guy who was in my group, Tony Woodcock, Mills Molina, Irini Ai, Justin Wilson, I can't even remember now, it's a long time ago, Shannon Paku maybe. And we used to just go down and just train, like just get through the training and then go straight into the fits and just have pints and jugs in the fits down there, the pub, and because it was a good uni town. And I remember one time we got there, and it was they were going for the world record of Jim Beam bottles in a night, and so we're like, we're into this, because Jim Beam Jim Beam was a big thing when we were young, like that. You just Jim Beam ice, scoop the ice out, throw it on the floor, throw it at someone, and then just chop your Jim Beam. So we got involved in this world record attempt, and I think it was like, I remember it getting to 99, and everyone was counting down when the 100th bottle came off the wall, and we're all like, they're lining it up, and we're just chopping it, and we're wrecked. And we got home like 6 in the morning, and we had a session with Tony Gilbert and Wayne Smith, who were in and around the All Black scene, and like we were just we couldn't catch a cold, couldn't listen to instructions. A couple of guys were in the corner sick, some guys didn't turn up. And it was just a debacle. And Brendan Ratcliffe, I think, was the guy who ran it. And I remember him just ripping into us, tearing into us. And we used to get $3,000 cash a year, and you get all these trips and your kit and stuff. And that was year one, and then that was it. They canned it, so we didn't even do year 2 and 3 after that world record attempt. But we were on the board, got over 100 bottles. It wasn't just us, obviously, but 100 bottles of Jim Beam in a night, world record.
How many people were there?
Oh, it was rammed. It was packed. It was packed. But the last thing I remember is it getting to 100. It could have gone more, but I don't know.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we're meant to play games and everything. Like we were going to be a team to play games, but the whole thing just fell apart after that. They were like, "Oh, you're not taking it seriously," and it was just kind of the era we're in. We're in between that kind of schoolboy, we play first 15, go to a party, and professionalism was sort of just kicking off. So we kind of got caught in between that, and that's where I, like what I enjoyed, play hard, work hard, play hard kind of scenario.
Certainly sound like you did that. So you mentioned a little bit about the New Zealand Sevens and being on the fringe of that. How did that one come about? From plenty under-19s, was it?
No, well, that under-19s was, I was just sliding. I was still at school, but no, the New Zealand Sevens used to do the trial. They had a 50-man camp or whatever in Rotorua, and I was at my leavers luncheon, school leavers luncheon on a Friday. And Gordon Titchens had rung our headmaster, who was Chris Grinter, who was Jonah's coach at Wesley. Oh, yeah. Anyway, he rung and said, "Look, I need 3 or 4 boys got 3 or 4 boys to come down, fill in some numbers. We're going to have like a tournament. We need like a certain amount of players." So he come over to me and a few others and said, "Hey boys, you want to go down Monday as blah blah blah?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be there. What time?" And he's like 8 o'clock or whatever. On the Monday, I think I was the only one who turned up out of the 4 boys that got invited. And mate, it was first thing was beep test, and I was reasonably fit, young fella, but beep test, and I got like a 12 or something like that. Did okay. Half an hour after the beep test finished was 3 1K runs, so 15 minutes in between your runs. So I've run them and I'm like struggling. Then we did like shuttles, and then it was 2-on-1s for about an hour. I was the worst first day of my life, and I was living out of town, but they're like, "Oh, look, we need you to stay at the hotel because you've got 3 days." I'm like, fuck, I can't get through 3 days of this. And they didn't have any spare rooms, so I had to sleep on the floor in Eric Rush's room. They got me this like fucking blow-up mattress, a pillow, and like a sheet, and I just had to lie on this thing for 3 nights. And then day 2 and 3, I think, was games. And it was like I was in the blue team or whatever, and just played. And it was at the Rotorua International Stadium, and I actually really enjoyed that side of thing, like playing against adults and guys like Dallas Seymour and Owen Scrimmager, and some real greats from the era. And I'd imagine guys like Bruce Reihana and Sam Nanoa and Damon Corona, and that kind of guy who were playing on the circuit. And then on the Thursday or whatever it was, they're like, right, wrap it all up. Well done, everybody. We're going to name the team, and then everyone else can shoot home, whatever. And I just left. I was like, oh, sweet. I just left. I didn't even hear the team announcement, and then got home. I could hardly walk. I was almost crying. Mum picked me up. Like couldn't drive. I don't know if I could drive, but I was so sore I couldn't drive. Mum picked me up, and I was almost crying. I'm like, I couldn't move. And so she took me to like a doctor, and she's like, oh, something's wrong with him. And I was like, so anyway, I ended up going to a massage therapist. I never had a massage before in my life, and this guy's like couldn't even touch me without me squirming. Anyway, then get a phone call, and it's the manager of the team saying, look, Craig's meant to be in camp. He's been selected for the New Zealand Sevens. We're like, where is he? He's just shot through. And she's like, oh, he didn't say anything about that. And as it turned out, I'd done okay on these 4 days and made the squad. So I had to go back, and I was in bits. So I went back and went into camp, and that was my New Zealand Sevens. Just took an opportunity, just turned up, fronted.
Crazy, mate. That is unreal.
Yeah, mate.
A young kid playing with all the legends.
Oh, mate, it was so good. It was so good. I had 2 years on the circuit, and I didn't play many in the first year. I think I played Japan and maybe Fiji. Well, Fiji was definitely my first tournament. And then the second year, played every tournament in that circuit, and we won that circuit. Oh, mate, real good story. That might have been that first World Series thing. The last one was in Paris, and we flew to LA on the way for a stopover, and then we met this guy. I can't remember his name, but he was this rich Kiwi guy, and he said, look, he took us out for lunch. He said, if you win the series, on your way back, I'll take you out on the piss, and I'll shout at you all this, and we're like, yeah, sweet. And we got over there. And we had to make the final, and Fiji had to not make the final, and Samoa beat them in the semi-final, and we got through, and we beat Samoa, and we won the tournament, and we went we went back through LA, and we stopped in LA for 4 days. It was me and Chris Marsoe, Rodney Suialo, Eric Rush, Jared Going. Justin Wilson definitely would have been there. Damien Cronin, Carlton Anna. I'm picking names out my ass here, but this guy takes us out onto his yacht, and we go out to Catalina Island, and we're on I've never touched champagne. I didn't even know what champagne was. We're drinking champagne, fizzing it up over each other. There was prostitutes on the boat. There was a jacuzzi, and there was a jet ski. Mate, it was ridiculous. There's a chef, and we're just pissing it up, and we're on this jet ski, and we're doing bombs and swimming around and just playing up for the whole day. And he arrives later on. He jet boats in, and he's like, "Get out of the water." I'm like, "Fuck, what do you mean?" And he's like, "What are you doing in the water?" I'm like, "Well, don't know." We found it quite strange. There was so many boats all parked out there. It was a beautiful 30 degrees, crystal clear water, and there was no one in the water the whole day. I'm like, "Fuck, this is weird. Maybe they don't like doing bombs over here or whatever." But it was great white shark breeding season. And there's sharks warning everywhere. They come up the coast of California, and they breed there. And no one had told us, and we're in the water all day. We could have easily, we didn't see a shark, but mate, it was crazy. So that was, Sevens was awesome, mate. I absolutely loved it. It was real work your ass off and then have a party. Normally the sort of second weekend you'd go away and you'd go Singapore, then Hong Kong, or, I think it was Brisbane, then Wellington, whatever. The second weekend was just a massive party, and I made some awesome mates through that. Guys like Julian Huxley in Australia, a guy called Freddie Asselin from Canada. We became real good mates, and we used to just wait for after that last tournament and just rip into it. It was awesome. I loved it. I love my Sevens.
Yeah, because Titch was always pretty serious and quite strict with all of that sort of professionalism side of things leading up to the first, obviously, till you finish playing your tournaments, and then it's a bit of a let your hair down moment when you're having those big parties. But I didn't know they were that extravagant on the boat with jet skis and champagne and Prozzies, Jesus.
Oh, mate, that was, I wouldn't say the norm, but the parties were bloody good, eh? But Titch was good, he was, like you say, he wanted a level of fitness that was, exceeding what your body was capable of. And you had to come into camp getting a 13 on a beep test, or you wouldn't even get to day 2. He'd send you home. So I think that's where I learned to self-organise and just work really hard. And I used to, summer at Mount Maunganui, and I'd get up every morning, regardless if I had beers or not, and I'd run around the mount. And I'd try and beat my time, and then I'd go for a swim, and then I'd come home, have breakfast, and in the evening do the same thing, but go the other way. And it was not it was 14 minutes, I think was my record, but you just come in fit, and if you weren't, then you wouldn't play. And Titch was awesome like that, but he was really good on the social side of things. We'd always do excursions, and we'd be out and about. And I remember going to the Commonwealth Games, and we went straight in Manchester, and we went into the village. And the Sevens was the last 2 days of the whole thing. And we went there quite early, and first day we're just walking around buzzing out. Everyone had 2 haircuts and getting all the free condoms and eating McDonald's, and he was doing his nut because he was so want us to eat properly and sleep, and we're up to 11 at there's parties and discos and people winning gold medals, and we're just so the straw broke when one of the Kiwi lawn bowls guys, he got a bit souped up. He'd been kicked out of his competition before the opening ceremony, and he'd got pissed up for 2 or 3 days, and he wasn't flying back, and he ended up touching up some athlete, and there was a complaint, and so he got sent home. And then Titch was that was the straw, there's too much distraction, so he pulled us out of the village, and we went and stayed in a hotel out of town until the tournament, which I think was the best thing for us, because we're all young fellas, and at the end of the day, so many distractions, and some of these athletes, men and women just walking past, and you're fuck, they were, they trained 4 years for it. We trained 4 weeks, and so we moved out, and then we didn't even so we played the final against Fiji, and we won the gold, and we went back on the bus to get changed and that. We met some Kenyan team, not rugby, but just the Kenyans, and we spent an hour on this bus doing huckers and Tūtira Mai Ngā Iwi, and they were doing like Kenyan songs, and we didn't even make the closing ceremony. We just went straight to this party with the Kenyans and ended up with the New Zealand netball girls, the Kenyans, and the Kiwi rugby guys, and we just had the best night ever. It was so good. So good. Right. Bruce Ray Hunter didn't take off his gold medal for like 3 days.
Right, that is good times. And that game, you guys were playing against a stacked Fiji side too in that final, eh?
Yeah, they're always stacked, in sevens, like they're just a factory of sevens. But yeah, they had like Wasali Serevi, De La Salle, those two spring to mind. I can't quite remember, but one of them got sent off like in the first half, and it was really weird. Like we wanted to win fair and square, and at the time when it was a late hit on something, Brad Fleming got late hit, I think, and Rushy must have been captain, and he went to the referee and said, "Don't send him off, like put him in the bin 2 minutes or whatever," and he said, "Just do not send him off," and the ref was like, "No, it was bad, send him off," and it was quite sad, really. It sort of killed it a bit. But then they were winning at the time by a score or whatever, and then they got a penalty shortly after, and they took a shot at goal. Serevi took a shot at goal and went up like 8 points. He was like, I think he must have thought if we can get 2 scores ahead and just hold on, then it might have been enough. But we ended up winning. That was mate. That was cool,
mate. Unreal.
That was cool.
Unreal times.
And then I guess 15s. I had to try and I wanted to concentrate on 15s because I always wanted to be an All Black.
So was this when you were playing? You were playing for North Harbour at the time as well, were you?
Yeah. So I'd moved up from Rotorua to Auckland to go do a university course. North Harbour had paid for my university fees, which was probably the biggest waste of money that I ever spent because I only did a year and it wasn't ready for me, and I was travelling. And in those days, like unis, particularly the one I was at, they didn't really understand the student athlete, and they weren't very compromising on deadlines and exams and stuff, and I'm pretty stubborn, and I wouldn't, if they said no, I'd always question. I wasn't really good at taking no for answers, and when it was a stupid reason. Yeah. So I was always like going back, and eventually I just got sick of trying to get extensions and getting fails and stuff and work my ass off when I'm away. And but yeah, I went up to North Harbour, played 1 game of Colts, and then played in the B team, and then did a season in the Bs. We'd always play before the A team, and they had a harbour master with a massive big plastic head thing, and we'd get pissed up, and at halftime you'd take turns running out onto the field. You had to do a lap or a length across the field and stuff, and you'd take turns, and so you could do the stupidest things. And I remember John Buchanan, we were at Counties, and he ran across, just put the head on naked, ran across the field and back. The harbour master was awesome. That was good times. And then I played harbour and then blues all within sort of 12 months. All happened really quickly.
And what was it like going into the blues environment?
Oh, like, mate, I was training with guys I'd watched, like Craig Dowd and Carlos Spencer, Glenn Taylor, and Robin Brooke. Like, these guys were playing for the All Blacks, and I was now Craig Innes, mate, unreal. And then there was guys like me, Kevin Mialamu, Woodcock, maybe my second year, Dougie Howlett, a real young crop of lads coming through. So it was pretty cool. My first trip, we went to up in Queensland somewhere, Mooloolaba, that's right, for pre-season. We did a pre-season over there. John Kerwin was our coach, and he loved surfing, so I reckon we went up there just to surf. And we went up there and we did training. I don't even know if we might have played the Queensland up there in a pre-season game, but we had a court session, and all the young guys had to stand up, and it was real weird. It was like, it wasn't just beer, it was like spirits and stuff, like Carlos and that were right into making guys drink spirits and that. And I remember we getting real hammered. Me and Rua Tupoki and Mato Parkinson, and Troy Flavel and Ron Cribble, all the harbour lads, was pretty tight. And we got a bit pissed, and then I came back, me and Mutz came back, and we decided to get the fire extinguishers out and have like a bit of a fire extinguisher squirt war thing. But as soon as we pulled the trigger, we're like, yeah, this is cool, bit of foam. And then it just kept coming, and we couldn't the rings wouldn't come back. It was like one of those ones you just go and it must just empty. And these 2 fire extinguishers emptied, and then the sprinklers start going off. And we're like, fuck. and it's up to our ankles. So we just drop these things, run back to our room, jump in, and hopefully it just goes away. We pass out, wake up, and there's like police, fire engines, firemen, everything, and there's just footprints from where these things were to our room, and we're like trying to deny it, and we're like, mate, it's literally footprints to your room. It's you guys. And we're like, no, it's not us, it's not us. Anyway, they had like 8 fire engines turned up. Everyone got evacuated. Like all the alarms are going off. We had to pay, I think it was about $3,000 fine.
Between years?
Each.
Each? Oh, shit.
Yeah, week 1. Boys chipped in though, apparently. All the boys chipped in. I remember Fitzy was the manager, and he was like, nah, I'm making you pay it all. Fuck you. Make you learn a lesson. And we're like, oh yeah, whatever. And I think contracts in those days were like 60 grand.
Yeah.
For a first year. So it was like, well, good money, but your first month or first week, and there's like your month wages gone. And but all the old boys pitched in. I think they all chucked in. We ended up paying a couple of grand each or whatever. But
mate, worth it for the fire extinguisher fight.
Oh mate, yeah. But my first year at Blues was good. I only played like 5 or 6 games that year, and we Blues were going through a transition with, I guess, those older guys sort of pushing through and all the younger guys coming through, and we didn't do that well. We weren't that consistent, but I absolutely loved it. And then my second year, really, for North Harbour, I played really well, and Peter Sloan was the Blues coach, and by then, and he had said, look, I'm going to protect you. You used to be able to protect guys within your region. Oh, no, I'm not going to protect you. So then Laurie Mains picked me up in the draft, and Laurie Mains rings me and says, look, I want to put you in the draft, but not too keen on your haircut. And I was like, oh, yeah, what do you mean? And he's like, look, don't know what you guys do up there in the North Island, but in the South Islands we have short haircuts. So if you want to come to the Highlanders, we'd love to have you, but you need to get a haircut. Because I had dreadlocks.
Oh, yeah, the dreadlocks, sure.
Like dreadlock, the Rotorua throwback dreadlock that I had for 3 or 4 years, and mate, pretty successful haircut. Like, did pretty well. And I was like, oh, far right. So it was not my identity, but it was sort of part of, like, I played the role of, the hard guy, the guy that just went hard, and anyway, so I went down to the Highlanders, and Laurie Mains, I had a haircut. I just walked into a barber and said, mate, cut them off. And they're like, you kidding? I was like, nah, cut them off. Do you want to keep them? No, I don't want to keep them. Fucking keep them. My blonde tips, had the blonde tips, and
it's brutal. I can't believe a coach made you cut them.
Well, he didn't, mate. He suggested, I think.
Yeah.
He suggested, if you want to play for the Highlanders and you get a haircut, I was like, I'll get a haircut. And I went down to the Highlanders, mate, and fell in love with the whole thing. Like day one, Balmacewen Golf Course. I was in my partners with Jeff Wilson, me and Willie Walker, Jeff Wilson, and Simon Mailing. I think was our group of 4 on a golf course, and there was a few beers, and we're going around, and then go up to the golf club afterwards. Right, can these guys stand up? Craig Newby, Willie Walker, Billy Fulton, Sam Harding, definitely Sam Harding. Stand up and like, oh shit, what's going on? And we realise we're all the first years, and we get a jug. Jug comes, like 8 jugs come out. There's 8 of us. 8 jugs come out. Right, this is how it works in the Highlanders. You do your jug in one. If you take your lips off, it counts as a fail. So we're like, oh shit, right. So I'm up second or third and do my jug. And that counts as a one. Like every one you do in a row is you count. And that's when day one starts. And if you see how many you can get through without someone failing.
Sure.
And we get through those 8, all 8, like real good start to the season, all those 8. And we're like, this is awesome. Like, this is the Highlanders. Like, I want to be Highlander forever. And then Sam Harding turned 21 and a yard glass came out. And they're like, right, take your shirt off, yard glass. And he does a yard glass and he chews through it and he vomits everywhere and he goes through it. And then next thing we're at Paul Miller's house with kegs and mate, party. And then went into town. Next morning we had training and we had to do 3150s. Oh. And oh mate, it was brutal. Guys were being sick and that, but got through them. But I remember Tony Vuller and Joe McDonnell and a couple of the props, mate, were just dying. I felt bad for them. I was a whippet, and like there and back was 150 and you do 30. guys were lapping guys, and it was brutal. But I always remember, like, this is where I'm going to be. Like, I love this place. You know, if you're going to last night, a few beers, meet everyone. I'm playing with guys like Tony Brown and Jeff Wilson and Byron Keller, and like unreal. And then they stick together off the field, and then on the field they work their asses off. And that was my introduction to the Highlanders, and I think it only got better after that. We had a keg every game of that year. We had a keg in the change room after you come off the field, have a keg. And it wasn't like, it was, what's that, 2 or 3 beers each or whatever it was between the whole group and squad. But it was such a, like, Spates was such a thing, like I always drunk Lion Red or whatever was cheap, really, Rhineck or Tui's or whatever. But anything, mate, to get it, the purple guanas. But Spates was obviously such a passionate thing about the South, and they were a big sponsor, and you learned to not drink anything other than Spates, and it was kind of like a connection thing. We'd go to South Africa and everyone would put 6 or 12 cans of beer in their suitcase, so that when we had games or there was time, there was Spates in the change room, and it was such a real connection to the people and to the area, and so I really love that. Like, it just felt like win, lose or draw, you come in, have your beer, sit down and have a yarn and talk about stuff. And I find that now, like, we're pretty good here at Ulster. Like, after a game, the boys will sit down and have a can of Coke or whatever, a Pepsi or whatever, or a Heineken, and just digest. But some other clubs I know don't. They're just so quick, get in the showers, undies on, and move on. So I really enjoyed that. And I try and encourage that as a coach now, that kind of time after, just to debrief, just relax. You've just put yourself through war. And I think I learned that through the Highlanders.
Yeah, mate, it's some of the best moments in your career, those moments after a game in the sheds. And like you said, it is sad that it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but there is a balancing act, isn't there? You probably don't want to be doing 20 jug scales after every game either.
Nah, it's obviously moved on, and I know that, like it's unrealistic really, but we pick and choose now. You might go, right, we have a Friday, then Sunday, games, and you pick and choose, and the boys, they do spend a lot more time with, their families and friends outside of rugby. They'll get together and they'll spend that time, and so it has changed.
And by all accounts, everyone's told me that you run potentially the best cordie in world rugby. You must have been in charge of a few good ones down there.
Oh, no, that's a lie. Carl Hoft, he runs a cordie. Like, he runs a cordie. I probably learned everything off him. I remember writing notes. He'd have a cordie and he'd like speed round, like all speed round right there down. And he's so good. Front rows, Anton Oliver, Carl Hoft, Carl Heyman, Case Muse. It might have been they were my first year with props were on committee. Second year was Simon Mailing, John Blakey, second row. So it used to go through. But yeah, quarters were a good part of probably the end of the season, really. Or if you were in South Africa and you needed just to tighten up, just a good way of blowing the cobwebs off and clearing the air a little bit and telling a few stories and in a real safe environment. But yeah, I remember listening to your podcast with Whopper, and he was kind of touching on that cordie we had at my house.
Yeah.
Mate, that was a real good one. That was my last one for the region, I suppose. I don't even know. Yeah, it must have been Highlanders. And the reason that came around is we had our last game was on a Sunday one year, and so the cordie was the Monday. So we flew back from, don't know where we flew back from, and we got back on the Monday morning. And tradition is you get an hour from the airport. You've got to be at Carisbrook in an hour. And if you're late, it's a 7 every minute, and every 7 minutes is a jug. So you didn't want it, no one's late, never really late. And so we get there and it just gets loose quick. And just a regulation one. I think it started with like a hermit half does. You had to go out into the stadium and get your half does, not allowed back in until you've done your half does, no talking, and you just dotted round, and then you go in. And started there, and then I remember it finished. Whopper and Clark Dermody got the empty keg and started smashing up this blue table that was in the middle that used to hold all the liniment and the sprigs and the whatever, water or whatever. And they started smashing that up, which in hindsight was probably a bad thing to do because it was like it'd been passed down for generations of Otago rugby teams. That was the oldest thing in the change room in Carisbrook, was this blue table, and they smashed it up, and then they started smashing the lights, and it just got out of control. So the final straw on that day was me and Adam Thompson got on the sand spreader, and we drove down to the dairy to get some more beers and food, and we're driving down like pissed, middle of the road on the sand spreader that's for Carisbrook, and the cops pull us over. They're like, "What are you up to, lads?" And we're like, "Oh, we're just getting some food." And they're like, "I suggest you drive back to where you came from." We're like, "Oh, yeah," and we're off our tits. Anyway, so we then got banned from court sessions at Carisbrook.
Oh, true.
They're like, no more. So there's workers, like there's the Otago like general staff, like the office staff and CEO and that. They're like literally next door to where we were, and we guys are naked. And Tony Brown had donated a scooter. He had this little red scooter that we used to drive around, and you'd hold that big Highlander or Otago flag and do a naked lap as fast as you get timed. And there's 5 guys did it, and this lowest one had to do a jug. It was pretty like basic rules. You just had to get around the 4 posts, 4 corners without falling off or whatever. And this is on a Monday, so they're all at work, and we then get banned. They're like, "Look, there's no more courties." So we eventually, our last Highlanders one, were like, "Oh, fuck it, we'll just have a court up at my place." So I hired a marquee and put it out in the front paddock. I had like 8 acres. I built this house and at 8 acres, and we put this marquee up, and everyone parked in the other paddock and had this courtie. And as Whopper said, there's a car in the pond at one stage. There was guys on my quad bike. I think he said lawnmower, but it was my quad bike, naked, doing naked rides. And Adam Thompson's car he came back to get it the next morning. All his tyres had been taken off and they're on blocks. It was classic, like once Warriors looking stuff. It was awesome. That was the last one, but I don't know if I ran that one or not. I think I might have just been too worried that they were going to get into the shed and like get the chainsaw and cut trees down, and guys were feral away.
Mate, you're a brave man hosting one. Gee, especially back in those days.
But it was either that or don't have one.
Yeah.
And it was worth the risk.
For the cause, mate.
Yeah.
Shit, that sounds like good times. Oh, good times to be a Highlander back in the days. But one thing I do want to talk about is your All Black career. You did play 3 tests for the All Blacks. Well, how did you find out, firstly?
Real funny. So we went to the trials. They started the trials back up. They'd missed those for a few years, and this was 2004. Must have been, after Super Rugby 2004. They had a trial. I was in the possibles. So you look around and you're like, oh, yeah, we're not making it. And so we played, and, mate, we almost tipped them up. Like they were stacked with all the incumbents, and we almost tipped them up. And we played. I thought I personally played really well, but I was, up against guys like Richie and Marty Holler. There was some pretty good sevens around. Josh Blackie maybe didn't make the original side, so I flew off to Fiji on holiday, and I went home for the weekend before I flew away on holiday, and I was cutting some wood up in the shed. I don't even know what I was doing, building a dog box, I think, and I cut my top of my thumb off on a table saw. And I remember Mum took me to A&E and they stitched me all up, and went to Fiji on the Monday, and I'm on the Bears. I was over with my partner at the time, but friends and stuff, and we're just having a real good time in Fiji. And I got a phone call, I don't know, maybe middle of week 1 or something, and it was Darren Shand saying, "Oh, Craig, Richie's been injured or something. Can you, we'd like you to come into the All Blacks. Can you be here this afternoon?" And I said, "Oh, look, I'm actually in Rotorua, just, bit of R&R, so can I come in tomorrow?" And he's like, "Yeah, sweet, see you at 9 o'clock, whatever." And so I had to catch a flight back, and I had this bung, like my thumb, I couldn't swim. I was like swimming around like this with a plastic bag on and that, and I couldn't bend it, and it was pretty rooted. So I remember our physio from Harbour, Dave Beattie, his wife was a hand specialist. So I got out of the airport, went around to her place, and she made me this like plastic moulding cast. Okay. So to put my thumb sort of like in a position that it wouldn't split the stitches and that. Turn up to training, get a load of kit, go straight to the training, and that might have been Tuesday or something. And then we played England on Saturday. True. Second test at Eden Park. And you're on the bench, sweet. Into it. Didn't know anything, didn't know the calls, didn't really, I don't know, I felt like I wasn't really meant to be there.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and I was like, I'm not going to get on. And then Marty Holler got injured or blood bin or something, and I went on and played. It just happened so quick.
Yeah.
I don't even know how, maybe 20 minutes, and then the game was over and we'd won, and it just happened so quick, and I hadn't prepared for it because I knew I'd been so disappointed about not making it, and thought I'd had a really good shot. And then after the game, got my tie from Tana, he was captain, and Graham Henry's like, well done, son. Did really well out there. Thanks very much. Richie's going to be right for next week, so all the best, mate. Shook my hand and all the best. And I was like, oh, fuck, awesome. Choice. So then I went out and spent all my match fee on my mates. I had like a dozen mates there and spent all my money on them, and had an awesome night out. And then the next day, get a phone call, Richie's not quite right. Can you come in? And I was like, yeah. And I had to like try and make up some excuse because I was hungover, and I went back in and ended up sort of staying in and out for that whole year.
Did it always feel like a real temporary thing being involved then?
I think that initial bit, like it was England, and then they re-selected for the Tri Nations. Oh, yeah. And once I got re-selected properly for the Tri Nations, so that first initial bit was like real cover, and I was like just living day by day and just trying to enjoy it for what it was, and then trying to put my best foot forward, I suppose, and then once I got named in the Tri Nations, that was like fuck awesome, like I sort of personally felt like I belonged there, but I never really did. I always felt I didn't quite fit, or I didn't quite get the love. They talk about the good people and all that, and I kind of felt I was on the outer of that, and I didn't really get the benefit of that whole change of mindset.
Yeah.
So that was my first year, and then I didn't play 2005. So the Lions year, I didn't get selected. I thought I was playing really good footy, and didn't get selected. I was pretty despondent. Played for Otago against the Lions, which was pretty magic, and captained Otago against the Lions, which was my first game for Otago. So I just transferred from North Harbour, and I'd sick of moving up and down. So I transferred and played good footy, and didn't make the All Blacks that year. I played for the Junior All Blacks, I think it was 2005, and then didn't play the Lions. Thought, kind of over. And then 2006, I must have gone okay again and got in, which was probably more frustrating because I think I was training really well. I knew what was going on. I was really confident in that environment, and I was on the bench for, I think, 8 games. Didn't get a start, but on the bench for 8 games and only got on 3 times. Sure. Only had 3 tests, and I felt that was really like heartbreaking. Like you work so hard, and felt like I had loads to offer, and didn't get that opportunity. And then I knew it was my last test, was against Argentina, and I was on the bench. Me, Flavs, Jimmy Cowan, Luke McAllister. It's funny, I can't remember these names like yesterday, but they just come back flooding to you. And boys were getting towelled up by the Argies. Like Scott Hamilton's first test, he scored a try, and I said it was like quite close. I think we were winning by a couple of points, and I was like, we're amping to get on. All the bench were like amping, let's go on, and we can try and lift the tempo or whatever we can do. And I didn't get on, and I remember just going, "Oh, that's me done. That's my last test, I reckon." So I went back to the change room, spat the dummy again, threw my jersey in the bin, and just got changed and just jumped on the team bus. And I remember Wayne Smith saying, "Hey, what's wrong with you, Newby?" I was like, "Oh, mate, just let you know, I'm pretty disappointed not to get on again. Like I feel like I could have really added value today." And he's like, "Oh yeah, mate, you just got to be patient or something," which was good. He was an awesome man. Like he wasn't malicious about it at all. He's just like pretty philosophical and like, "Mate, just be patient, keep working or whatever." And then Anton Oliver he picked my jersey out of the bin and said to me, this was the next day, and he said, you might want this, and he gave it back to me. That was it. That was my last one. And then the next year, still playing good footy, didn't even make the Junior All Blacks. So I was like, this is not for me. I'm going to go and do something different. And that's when I got the opportunity to come over to Leicester.
Wow.
Well, I looked for the opportunity and took it.
Crazy. And then how'd you find the English Premiership?
Mate, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. My last game a good story. Whopper loves the story. My last game for the Highlanders in Africa was against the Cheetahs in Bloemfontein. And we had a real good win, 30-odd to late 20s, like awesome game. two battler teams, like real battlers, play good footy, just rip it. And then I remember Glenn Moore, he was coaching. He said, "Hey boys, awesome win. We're going to stay off the Bears. We've got a big game next week against the Blues at home. Traditionally, teams that travel don't really do well in their first game back, and we need to win it." And blah blah blah. And I was sitting there, and I'm captain. I'm sitting there like, "Oh fuck." Great speech, Growler. But hey, boys, last thing from me is just going to let you know I've signed a contract in Leicester. I'll be going on a 2-year deal at the end of the season. So this is my last time I'll be in South Africa as a group. I've booked the van for 8 o'clock. Anyone wants to be there, we're going to, I don't know, whatever pub it's called, that Cuban had organised. And you see his face going, just disappointed in me. And everyone's like, yeah, quiet. At 8 o'clock, at 7:59, there was 26 out of the 28 boys in a 12-seater van, like rammed. The only two that weren't there was Chris King and Paul Williams, and everyone just went in and just went mental, like best night ever. Like same as that Elliot Dixon story, like couldn't get people out, including me. Like we're just going real hard. And then it got to like 5 o'clock, and the only way we got out is because me, Whopper, Tom Donnelly, and Clint Newlands were going hunting the next morning, and we had to be in the van at 6. It was a couple of hours away. So we got back at like 5:30, still steaming, jumped in this van, wearing shorts and T-shirt, thinking South Africa, it's going to be boiling. Get out to the middle of nowhere and it's raining, freezing cold, and we're like, oh. So we sat in this hut drinking whiskey to keep warm. We got so wet, we just had to pull pin. And then Clint Newlands shot this massive eland or something, and we chased it around for about 2 hours because he hadn't hit it properly. And me and Whopper, the guy for some reason decided that me and Whopper could drive his Hilux. So I'm driving the Hilux, Whopper's in the front seat, box of beers, and we're driving around following the front ute, which Sass and Critter were on, trying to get this eland. And we're driving around drinking beers. Off-road, so obviously not drink driving, because I don't condone that. And then all of a sudden, we must have, I don't know, fallen asleep or looking at something, and we just, bang, smash straight into the back of the other ute. And the guys are falling off. There's the whole tailgate's caved in. We had these bull bars and the whole tailgate, and we're like, fuck, what happened there? We get out, and it's just like nose to tail. And the guy's like, what happened? And we're like, oh, the brakes, something's wrong with the brakes, so you better check the brakes. And so the guy's like, mate, you guys are like, you can't drive. So he got out, and that was it. And then we drove back. That was my last thing. And then, I played the rest of the season, flew over in October, I think it was. And, mate, I loved the premiership. It was a real grind, like 30 games in a row. You'd know, mate, but I loved it. Like, we were a really good side, and we were in Europe competitions, which was really different for New Zealanders, playing home and away, and so good, mate. And the stadiums are unbelievable. And I really enjoyed the rugby that we played. Like, it was really, like, my defensive stuff, I could just make 30 tackles a game, and I was really valued. Like, all those core things, like you catch a pass that Kiwis take for granted, like they were really valued at Leicester, and I became a real like leader in lots of different areas, and I was just there for that. Like, obviously the money was really good, and the lifestyle change, and I just wanted to play good footy, and I ended up playing better rugby just because the fact I was playing free, and I started, I don't know, I met just some really good different people. Like, the English guys are, like, they love a beer and they love like working really hard, and it just sort of clicked for 3 or 4 years, and we won a few things and made a few good mates, real good mates.
Yeah. One game I do want to touch on is the famous, infamous final against Cardiff, where you step up to the 22, slot your kick. Mate, what was your heart rate like lining that one up?
Oh, yeah, so context was, it was a semi-final, and we were pumping them in normal time, and they scored 2 converted tries. Ben Blair from the sideline, Xavier Rush was playing for them. Ben Blair, 2 conversions for sideline, draw it up, extra time, and went to penalty shootout, and it was from in front. And I always backed myself with goal kicking. Like, I used to always kick after training. I had some real good guys I kicked with through my career. Frano Bodika when I started, and Willie Walker, then Nick Evans and Tony Brown. And then when I got over to Leicester, it was Toby Flood and Derek Hugard. And I used to just competition with them all the time. And So I wanted to be in the top 5. I was like, look, I'm better than some of these other guys. So can I be like 3? And Paul Burke was our pin coach. He's like, nah, we'll save you for the back. I was like, mate, Aaron Major's back was wrecked. He was like number 6. Yeah. Scott Hamilton wore Gilbert boots. He was number 5. Like, I mean, how can a guy wearing Gilbert boots be higher than me? And Johnny Murphy, who was like an awesome bloke, but he was real emotional, and I was like, he's number 4. He's definitely going to miss. I'll go 4. And he's like, nah, you'll go like 7. I'm like, 7. Anyway, gets down to it, and then I go up there, and the only thing I was stressing about is I hadn't bought my tea.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to borrow someone else's tea, and I was like, fucking like shit of it. It was one of those, I used the telescopic one.
Yeah.
I used to like it quite high, just get the levers through, and I just had to kick off one of those little stubby ones. I was worried about that just hitting the grass, but just whacked it through, and then as it turns out, Martin Williams, like the greatest Welsh flanker ever, missed his. I felt like horrible for him, but then Jordan Crane, our guy, got it, and yeah, it was cool.
Unbelievable scenes that, eh? It was so hard case.
It was the only time people sometimes ask you, like, playing in front of big crowds and that, what's it like? Do you hear it? And you're like, you never do. Like, it's always just a buzz. You hear the odd bit and you hear cheering and maybe booing and stuff, but that was the only game I've ever heard like the crowd while I'm being like literally playing, hearing the crowd, and all the English crowd was singing Sweet Chariot, and all the Welsh was singing Bread of Heaven, and it was just like just merging songs for the whole game. It was like unbelievable. That was one of my favourite games, most memorable games.
Mate, it was one of those great ones, eh?
Yeah, mate, it was so good. We're playing Toulouse this week in the return game, and it's aggregate over 2 games. Oh, yeah. And there's a kick-off thing in that if it gets to points and tries and all that. But I think it probably won't get to that. But boys were talking about it today.
Can coaches step up?
Nah. Oh, mate, I can't even touch the toes, let alone kick a ball. Mate, if it's a boat race, I'll step.
Another team I love hearing the stories about is the Barbarians, and I know you had a good time in the Barbarians, scoring a try, but then looked like you broke your neck.
Yeah, we went to Barbarians during the week and had a lot of beers. We had a pretty good side, but we're getting pumped by Ireland, and I scored a try, and I didn't break my neck, but I sort of jarred my neck, and I knew something was wrong. Like most rugby footy guys, you get up and you're like, oh, I'll walk it off, or even if it's bad, you can still sort of, and I was like, nah, something's not quite right. And as it turned out, I spent 3 days in Gloucester Hospital in a, like, not the screw-on things, but a halo, and watching TV through a mirror, and all alone. I had no family, no friends like around. It was really surreal. Luckily, I'd already got my 10 grand cash in an envelope on day one. So I was like, mate, where's my cash? And they're like, yeah, you don't worry about your cash. And I'd ruptured 3 discs in my neck, and so I'd spent a bit of time on the sidelines. But the Barbars was pretty cool, pretty special. I've contacted them a few times to see if I could get some guest coaching gigs with them, but they're like, yeah, nah. Well, they actually sent me last year, I don't know if you noticed, on the jerseys, the playing jerseys, in the number they have everyone, like the former players, they sent me a jersey last year or the year before, which is just out of the blue, emailed and said, hey, we want to send you a jersey, and pretty cool club to be part of. Yeah. The best thing about that was Tom Donnelly was meant to be with me. He was meant to fly over, and then he got called into the All Blacks, and they're like, oh, we need you to cover. And I was like, oh, right, sweet, I'll come in and cover. And he did like 2 days covering, like whoever, I don't know, Chris Jack or something. 2 days of covering. We went to like a week 2 weeks in England, got 10 grand cash, and he didn't even get to bloody come over. And I remember that I got back from the airport, drove straight to his house, and I dropped him off. Like I was like, oh mate, just off to the bank. Oh, yeah, what's that for? I've just got to take this money into the bank. 8 grand cash. I'd spent a couple, but he was like, get the fuck out of my house. Get the fuck out. Mate, it's good.
Oh, it's so good. And we spoke about your sort of retirement and coaching at the start, but what are the plans for you going forward?
Keep learning. Like, mate, coaching's hard. There's so many awesome times, and I absolutely love it. And I think for me, it's just keep learning. I've just signed a new 2-year deal here, so I'll be in Belfast for another 2 years, and really, really good group. Our head coach, Dan McFarlane's like an outstanding head coach. I'm learning loads. I'd love to become a defence coach or a forwards coach of, whether it's here or other opportunities. I'd say England or, the Europe's probably my thing. My wife's English, so I kind of got some ties here. My daughter's got 2 years left at high school over here, and she'll go to university over here. So I'm that's probably where I'm going to be for the time being. But yeah, pretty loose sort of plans in terms of my coaching. Just keep learning and keep enjoying it. I've got some personal goals outside of footy that I want to achieve, but they're for another day, really.
How good is that? Love it. Well, what a story, what a career. So many good Diesel stories in there. I'm sure the What a Lad listeners will be loving that. But as always, we've gone to our Instagram for some questions. And, mate, you have a lot of friends who follow What a Lad, obviously. Plenty of good questions have come in for you here. Our first question, what happened to Tom Donnelly when he tried to charge the back?
Oh, the old back seat. Yeah, he got a split lip. When I first started for the Highlanders, it was like the back seat of Hoft and Oliver and Muse, some big dog, old school, and I learnt the fast way of, the back seat was kind of the leadership group, I suppose, and in a symbolic way was that, and getting to the back seat was always a big thing. And I remember it was Otago, end of season trip, I think, and I think the boys used to just gee everyone up and make a charge for it, and I didn't even know if I was on the back seat or I was sort of one in front or not, but I can't remember. And he just came in, and I just put one down the middle and slotted him. I actually felt horrendously bad because it just ruined his day. He had this massive split lip, and it just ruined his day. Oh yeah.
You guys were good friends, though, eh?
Oh, best mates, still best mates. Yeah.
You obviously got him good, though.
Oh, I don't know. It was one of those. I didn't see any faces, just saw a bloke and just sent.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, next one. Where does he get the nickname Soupy from?
Oh, I just used to enjoy the social side of footy, and I think I said earlier, like work hard, play hard, drink hard, and Hong Kong Soupy was a real shitty cartoon superhero when I was a kid growing up. And the boys just used to call me Hong Kong Soupy, and just sort of went into there. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was just like a product of like whoever was at the front of the charge most of the time, or whoever was the leader. And I guess because I was captain for a lot of those years, that I was always for it. Boys letting off a bit of steam and enjoying each other's company.
Sounds like good times. Okay, the next one. Tell us about the Stewart Island off-season trips.
So Stewart Island's obviously down the bottom, and we used to go down there after each season and book a hut on Dockland, and it was probably early in my hunting career. Like Carl Heyman got me into hunting, and yeah, we'd go down there and just drink beers for a few days. One of the best ones was I think we had 15 cans of beer a day each was our allocation, and we had to get through it. And it was me and Glenn Horton, Carl Heyman, Tom Donnelly, Charlie Hall was always there, Tim Boys, Whopper, good crew, and one of the best ones we used to, because the allocation, we called it, was so high, we brought in the seamer rule. If you got a can that had the seam down the mouth, you had to scull that. And each day, 2 blokes were designated non-hunters. So you had to try and get through double your allocation just to get ahead of it, and everyone else would go hunting and fishing and stuff. And me and Charlie Hall were on one day, and we got pretty hammered, and the boys went out for a hunt, came back, and then they decided, let's go for a dive. So some reason, me and Charlie jumped on the boat on Zarg, Carl Heyman's on Zarg's Stavy craft, and we jumped out there, and they went for a dive, and we were 2 pissed, we were drinking beers, and we decided, they were down there for a while, and we decided, look, we're going to go do a bit of fishing, and so we chucked the keys in ignition and went for it, and we're burning around, and the boys reckon they could hear was like, just, they were underwater, obviously, and just see this like outboard just zooming past, and we're apparently doing laps, and they were too scared to come up, and then eventually we calmed down a bit, but that was that was one story. But I don't think we were there like 4 years or something, and I think the only person who shot a deer was Carl, and that was off the boat. We saw a few, but it was real social. Another time, me and Whopper, Jamie McIntosh, fell asleep. We got up real early. We fell asleep on the beach, and we missed completely all the deer hunting. We woke up and there was this massive big seal or sea lion on the beach of 100 metres down the thing. We're like contemplating, like, so what would we have to do to consider shooting it? And we're like, so we went into survival mode. We went like Bear Grylls, and we decided that we'd walk to this other hut and spend a whole day like pretending to be survivor men. And in the end, we didn't see any deer. We didn't do any surviving, but we just we think the boys were meant to pick us up on the boat, and they forgot about us. But that was always a good end of year blowout, and I think we've got plans to get back down there at some stage.
Mate, that is a hell of a time. And what a crew you had. Geez, there's some lads in there.
Oh, man, I could go for weeks on Stewart Island. One of the beer ones I'm drinking was we ran out of beer one day, and so we radioed into the guy that had brought us over. We radioed in, and he was in Oban, which was about 2 hours all around from the hut we were at, and we paid the guy $1,000 to take us to Oban. To pick up more beers, and we got to the jetty in Oban. We'd ordered through the pub there, and they dropped off like boxes of beers. We didn't even get on shore. We just scooped them off the wharf, chucked them back in, and it was a 5.5 hour round trip just to get another like dozen beers each for a day. It was awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Oh, the yarns, mate. Bucket list material going to Stewart Island with Craig Newby, mate. Sounds like one of the greats. Anyway, next question is, what's your best Scott Hamilton yarn?
Oh, Scotty Hamilton, what a legend. He's actually just retired eventually. He's been director of rugby and still playing for Hinckley, which are in National 1 or 2 over in England. He's just retired, so what a bloke, what a man, and what a friend, real good. We came to Leicester 3 weeks apart. He stayed with me for a bit until he got his house sorted, so we've been mates for as long as I've been over in the UK. Some good ones. I'll go real quick. Kasabian were in town in Leicester, local band, pretty good, and he was like, right, we're all going, and he put on Twitter, hey guys, like the old thumbs up, hey guys, everyone, I'm coming to Kasabian, catch you there later on. And a 12-year-old lad filmed him at Kasabian at 11 in the morning, so he'd only been there an hour. He was on a St John's gurney, passed out, vomit, just sick as a dog. And the 12-year-old had done like a selfie, when selfies went a thing, was like, hey, mate, found you. And the story was he had to pay the kid off from releasing it and that, but that was a good one. What else has Scotty done? Oh, we went to the races one time, and we had a few Royal Ascot. It was awesome, like quality day, 25 degrees. Everyone in shorts and T-shirt and that, and Scotty's there and getting a bit loose. And we went to leave, and we're like, nowhere, where's Scotty? Like, there's a big group of us, where's Scotty? Look, we can't leave a man down. There's thousands of people there, and no phone signal, not answering his phone. And there's a band in the background, everyone's having a great time. And then all of a sudden we're like, look over, and he's up on stage with the band singing John Farnham, You're the Voice. Just going mental. Mate, and then we're like trying to, wave him over. We're trying to hoping that they would crowd surf him back, but they didn't. Eventually we found him. And then our attack coach, Dan Soper, who's a Kiwi guy, he came to the 2009 Heineken Cup final that we played against Leinster in Murrayfield. He came on it as a stag do, and he went up there Thursday, Friday. He didn't know Scott, didn't know me. Thursday, Friday, stag do. Saturday was the match, 3:00. He bumped into us Saturday night, 8 p.m, and we'd obviously lost the final to Leinster. And he said he'd been on the piss for 3 days, and Scott Hamilton was just still the drunkest bloke in Edinburgh. One whistle had been like 3 hours ago, and Scott's the drunkest guy in Edinburgh.
Oh, mate, I need to get him on. What a lad. He sounds like an absolute lad. Oh, I love that one. Okay, next question is, what's the best stadium in the Premiership?
Welford Road, right, hands down. Just real close, passionate, real loud when you're winning, when you're losing, which wasn't that often when I was playing, but like just mega place. Franklin's Gardens, Northampton was really good. Down in Gloucester was really good. Like the Shed, they used to get stuck into Leicester. That was a real cool one. Yeah, mate, some real good ones, like Sandy Park down in Exeter. Once they came in, mate, they're a fortress down there. I used to before games. I was quite casual. Guys were out like banging walls or out there kicking or passing. I was always just passing and kicking. And I used to, me and Tom Van Dal was a winger. We used to just kick the ball and do like back passes and that. And Richard Cocker used to lose it. He was like, why are these guys mucking around? And we're like, let's just relax. And I remember Tom Van Dal used to send balls into the crowd, and we'd pick out, like, especially at away games, we'd pick out like home fans, and we'd just try and send a ball into them. And he one day, this lady was carrying like 4 beers walking through this thing, and he just like, and he targets this lady, trying to knock her beers off, hit her straight in the face, she went down, beers everywhere, and we're like, oh shit, we just turned around and
Oh, good times. Oh, love it.
oh, those days.
Were you like that in the All Black environment?
No way. I was nowhere near. I didn't enjoy those small things in the All Blacks. It was business. It was representing everyone. Like your country and yourself and your family. So I didn't really, and I never really felt comfortable in the playing environment to actually express myself as much as I would if I was in the Highlanders or the Otago or just my local club or whatever. So it was just different. But I think it deserved that respect. I didn't think it was the place to do a lot of those things.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, next one. I'm sure there'll be plenty of these, but what is your favourite all-time quarter?
Oh, I can't remember any specific one. I remember the one time in New South Wales we played, and Filippo Levy had a fight with Justin Harrison and got sent off. And we were backs against the wall. We were battlers, mate. Like, we were just good blokes who ripped in, and we were down by, I don't know, a few points, and I'm sure it was Matt Saunders or Glenn Horton or both of them scored like a couple of tries each just out of nowhere, and we just like fought our way back. And Matt Burke had a kick to win it from 40 out, last play of the game, and it hit the post, and Neil Brew caught it and kicked it off, and we went mental. And we had we went into Darling Harbour, excuse me, and we had a courtier in there at the seafood restaurant, and we just took over this whole place and just had this awesome, like, it wasn't really a courtier, it was just like a few speed rounds and some fines, and that was always a memorable one. And then, that was pretty cool. I remember Roy Kinney Lau, when he first came in, and I remember something stuck out in your mind, and he was like, this is how we do a jug and welly, and then he just took 2 hours to do his jug. We just, mate, sit in the corner. Get out of our sight. You're ruining time. So many good ones.
Oh, shit. There could be a book about your court sessions. Okay, next one. Why did you always wear an Adidas top, big baggy denim jeans, and Adidas shoes when you went to town?
Oh, mate, baggy jeans had baggy pockets, so keep all the cash. Probably a can of Spates in each pocket. I don't know, that was probably just growing up in Rotorua. I can't even remember wearing baggy jeans and that to town, and I was sponsored by Adidas. They were pretty good to me, so I guess, mate, I was tight though in those days, tight, so free tip. You don't get nothing for free.
Fair enough. Okay, next one. Does he still wear G-strings?
I've never ever worn a G-string. Eric Rush made up the story that I used to wear G-strings, and in his aftermatch speeches and presentations, he always say, he'd introduce guys and he'd be like, this is Carl Tanana, his nickname's the ABC or whatever, and this is Noobs, and his nickname's the G-Man because he can wear a G-string backwards. Brutal way. Like, it was such a good, like, no comeback. But no, I never wore G-strings.
So that's just fully made up. You just had to run with it.
Yeah. Here's one of the best ones. I can't remember who it was, but he used to say, he used to use little like nicknames like that. And one was the sledge. The sled. He's like, oh yeah, and this is Craig Newby, the sled is, and they're like, oh, what's he called the sled? And they're like, he's called the sled because when he was at school, he was always getting pulled by dogs. Shit, he was good.
Oh, that's hard case. Okay, next one. Oh, there'll be a few of these too, I'd imagine. Best Tony Woodcock yarn.
Oh, Woody. Me and him are really good mates. Well, best mates. We've been great mates for the minute I became a North Harbour guy. One of the best ones. The best one was we came back from Northland, and he decided that we're going to drink a 24 pack on the way back from Northland to North Harbour, which is like some doing 2 hours or whatever, 2.5 hours, and so we're chipping away. And he's a steady drinker, and we're chipping away, and I just remember him standing up to tell a yarn, and the bus there must have been some sheep on the road or something, and it just slammed its brakes on at 100k an hour, and he just went from back to the front, arse over tit, all the way down, and he just gets up in his hat. He had like a hat on, and he gets up and it goes to the side, and he's like, fuck. There's days he's like, didn't know what had happened, and he still had his beer, it was all frothy everywhere, and he just like finished his beer, walked back as if nothing had happened.
Oh, I enjoyed that one. Okay, the next one. What was Lewis Moody like to play with? Few English fans.
Yeah, Lewis Moody. Just relentless. Like, he was such a leader in his intensity and effort, and it was infectious. So we played a bit of 6 and 7, and then he made like charge downs and hitting rucks and any loose ball, scraps on the ground, just those kind of things. He was the world leader in anything. He's also the world leader at getting cut. Like, he would be cut every game. We played a game of touch in a warm-up one day, and he dove, like, he was fully on diving round, and he dove for a ball, and he hit Alisana Tuolangi, and he broke his leg in a warm-up game of touch on like a Tuesday. Mad Dog was his nickname. Real good. I've got a lot of time for Moodos. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Who was the best player you ever played with? This will be tough because you obviously played with some legends.
Jonah, like, hands down. Jonah was the best player I ever played with. Just a freak, you know, particularly Simmons. In 15s, it probably would have been Tony Brown. Just the most influential on a team in a game. Like, you see his leadership as a coach now. He's just making good blokes into great players and good teams into great teams. And he did that as a player. So Brownie stands out. Jeff Wilson was ridiculous when I was a kid, you know, like watching him doing stuff and then getting to play with him. So probably those three stand out.
Oh, yeah, good shouts, all of them. Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for a Waterlad listener?
Best piece of advice? I think if you want something, go and get it. Go and find a way to get it. Write some ideas down and make it happen. Don't sit around and just let the world go by, or other people have stuff, you know, like the grass is not always greener on the other side. So just, if you want something, go and rip into it and make it happen and be patient. I think a lot of people these days, and particularly younger generation, like my teenage daughter and her friends and that, but they're a bit impatient. Just go and work and work and work, and if one opportunity doesn't work out, go and find another one. But that would probably be a bit of advice, really. Just go and, if you want it, go and get it.
Oh, mate, I love that. And that is why you are a coach. Geez, these Ulster lads are lucky having information and advice like that on tap whenever they want it. Mate, what a coach.
Oh, you never know, mate. They're pretty good here. I'm really lucky they're self-driven, and I just, you know, like, I just turn up, basically. I'm just a guy that turns up when they ask, and that's all. I think my role here is, you know, big part of that is just giving them time.
Nice. Love it. Anyway, mate, really appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing some of these yarns. One of the best podcasts to date. So many good stories, so many good yarns, and I'm sure the listeners will have enjoyed that one. All the best with the rest of your coaching career, and I'll be following it very closely.
Thanks, mate. Awesome. Love your work. Keep the work up, mate. Some good blokes coming on here. I'll get you Scott Hamilton's number.
Yeah, cheers, mate. That'd be good stuff.
Sweet as.